I am Sensa Lythande, once courtesan of the great Emperor Lacta-Sin. I am old now, as is my scribe and life companion Sensa Alicia. Yet more than 150 years ago, it all began, or ended, one might say, on that fateful day in New York City. My grandmother, Sabika LaBelle, watched a weather monitor, which looked down from the sky eye upon the city of New York. She knew what was going to happen. Terrorists, in protest of the attack on the country of Iraq, had brought a boat into the harbor near the Statue of Liberty. Inside its hull, hidden in a secret space, was a 300-megaton nuclear bomb. And as Sabika watched her computer monitor, in only a few seconds, she saw the inevitable, the beginning of the end of most of the human race. The people panicked when they heard the sirens. Having survived the 9/11 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, they believed they were ready for anything. They were not ready for a 300-megaton nuclear bomb. What possible defense was there, or could there have been? With a deafening rumble, the waters in the New York harbor vaporized, and in less than 40 seconds, 88% of New York, more than 4 million people, were incinerated. Children's black images etched on brick walls next to playgrounds. Charred corpses reaching their arms to the sky as their hair and bodies flamed like grotesque human candles. The end of the world they knew had begun. Many fled the city into what had become wastelands. Here and there, some structures still were basically inhabitable, and they believed themselves to be safe. Yet those who did not perish from the initial blast were soon to find more hideous deaths from the lingering radiation. And those who survived that were to be faced with an even more sinister plague. A genetically engineered virus, much like the common cold, which spread like a fire sweeping across a hot, dry field. The carnage was even greater than that of the Black Death in the Middle Ages. Those left, still suffering from radiation sickness, tried to bury the dead, and in doing so infected themselves. Yet stubbornly, humankind in the smallest fraction survived. A small group of survivors, huddled in ruins, set up a camp which endured almost 20 years. 2 male children were born there, who would change the course of human events. Lacta-Sin, who would eventually become the great emperor, and his close friend, whose true name has been lost, but would eventually be called Commander Spider of the Skin Resistance Forces. Lacta-Sin was a genius and a visionary, and finding remnants of Martian technology from a NASA space site, was able to build the first crude robots, which in turn began rebuilding the great city. It was Lacta who created and detonated the first glass vector device, which melted and fused all of what was New York into a 1/4-mile thick plate of a substance resembling glass. This formed a layer of protection against the radiated ground beneath. Upon this foundation, Lacta-Sin built the first quadrant city, or Perfidia, as it was later called. Sensa Lythande turned against the Emperor and left with Commander Spider for the Forbidden Zone, and so the city came to bear the name Perfidia, or the City of Betrayal. The city quadrant of Lower New York, or Metro, was then constructed. By this time, a large amount of what was left of the population had moved into the 2 cities, and Lacta-Sin designed the first Metallica, the prototype which would produce a vast cyber army. A sentient Martian intelligence from the core used by Lacta-Sin to create the Watcher system eventually took control of the robots and built the quadrant of Clonus, where only the race of metal men lived and grew more powerful. Both Alicia and I were in the temple when swarms of the Metallica surged through the streets. Flashes of their ion pulsars, moving too quickly for the eye to follow, exterminated what had once been their masters. Many of my sisters died inside the temple, and Alicia and I escaped only by fleeing down into the crypts. But were I to tell you all of what happened in those days, and perhaps someday I shall, it would fill many books. Yet most importantly, Spider returned to me, badly wounded from battle, and gave me instructions for setting the time rift portal to a period just before the first nuclear blast. and told me that it was focused on someone who is actually playing a game. A game which, ironically, would prepare them for what was to be their role in the real world, to be transported forward in time to save humanity. And so I wait in the desolate wastes of the Forbidden Zone, watching the horizon for the blinding flash of energy when the traveler would come to free and save us all.